Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, students, family and friends, welcome to the graduation of the class of 2015 of the Executive Master of Public Administration program at the Hertie School of Governance. I am honoured to be here to deliver a speech on behalf of the students graduating today. As I look out into the audience, I see many people who have shared a remarkable journey over the last few years as students, administrators and teaching staff. We have come together from all over the world to be in this place. This place, Berlin, a most remarkable icon of modern history and culture, and music as well. We just had it. A renowned gateway to European politics and society. What an honour it was to be here last year to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, which is an act that embodies democracy, freedom and courage. How sobering to pass through the streets and buildings in Berlin that are scarred by war, and to appreciate and respect the sacrifices for freedom they represent, and to marvel that we are here together learning about the systems and mechanisms of democracy and governance. The Hertie School of Governance is a fitting setting in which to explore these issues. Here we have looked at the history, theory and analysis of governance stretching from Weber to New Public Management, from Verdavsky to Habermas. And we have tested ourselves in the use of practical tools for budgeting and finance, as well as economic theory. We've had exploration of an assortment of communication tools and methods and how they shape public policy. And we've puzzled over the complexity of social democracy and what exactly governance means. And we have learnt some useful conflict management, game theory and negotiation skills along the way. Not only did we learn from professors, visitors, field trips and assessments, but we also had the opportunity to use and learn from a unique resource that is valuable beyond measure, each other. We, each of us, represent the perspectives of our home states and countries, our professional experiences and values, and social norms and practices that vary from place to place in subtle, mysterious, and sometimes perplexing ways. In the course of my time at Hertie, I have learnt from you, my fellow graduands, about your countries and your jobs and your experiences of bureaucracy and government and the private sector and civil society. And I have come to appreciate that your values are developed through these experiences and they're unique. And these have shaped who you are. And I compare myself to you and I think about what I might like to change about myself in terms of my views and my methods and even my behaviour. In turn, I know that I have shared quite a few stories with you. Some of the stories that I've shared with you are of dubious value, and I have contributed to spreading my culture to the world by teaching many Hertians the Australian tradition of the Tim Tam Slam. For those of you who don't know what this is, you get an Australian biscuit called a Tim Tam. It's chocolate with some biscuit inside, and you bite off each end, and then you suck a hot drink through it like a straw. And just as when you feel it's about to collapse, you slam it into your mouth. And it's very dignified and an honourable tradition, and there's no shame in burning your face or smearing chocolate over it. And I think we have a number of devotees here today who I have taught this skill, and I would no doubt agree with me that half of the world's problems could be solved if we could all share this ritual. But there's a serious element to what I'm saying. And when I approached many of you in August with ideas for the student speech today, many of you sent me responses asking me to convey the importance of the combination of academic training that we've had, as well as the knowledge sharing that we've conducted amongst each other with our student colleagues. And I applaud those Hertie cohort members who took the initiative throughout their time here and invited colleagues to share their knowledge, to better understand their own workplaces, to discuss change and how to drive reform. As a group, we came together through working lunch sessions, which were open to all Hertians, where individuals provided some insight into key issues and challenges in their work environments. And some of us also took part as guest speakers and participants in the Master of Public Policy lectures and seminars. We've built together a vast network of connections and relationships across the globe. And we've heard about this already today, but I want to point out that today we have graduates from my place, Australia, Poland, Belgium, Ukraine, Russia, Kosovo, Venezuela, Norway, Jordan, Morocco, the UK and US, Kenya, Spain, Japan, and Austria. And of course, there are many beautiful German cities and regions represented by my colleagues from Berlin, Bonn, Frankfurt, Braunschweig, and Gütersloh. And Isa, I did not forget your hometown, because I left this to last, because ich habe mein Herz in Heidelberg verloren. This diversity among us is of incalculable value. It has two aspects in my view. First, there is the quality of our experience during our time together here. Diversity has increased the opportunity to bring various perspectives to identifying and solving problems. This set of perspectives is more likely to represent the broader, diverse views of the global community. And in turn, each one of us has the greater potential to understand the challenges and opportunities of many peoples rather than our own narrow or limited set of experiences and views. The payoffs for investing in diversity are better insights into effective policy development, improved outcomes for our communities, as well as the benefits of increased innovation, productivity, problem-solving, and creativity. Secondly, there is the intangible personal asset that we are even now nurturing and developing, one that we will take with us wherever we go, and which will enrich our professional and personal performances whatever next we do. Our diversity as a group enhances our competitive advantage in an increasingly globalised and connected world. People will value us for the connections that we have, the entry into countries and institutions all over the world that we provide. We are potential problem solvers and we are assets. Of course, diversity means different things to different people. Coming from Australia, to me, diversity is centred on culture, history and language, shaped by the tragic story of Indigenous Australians and of the struggle of non-English speaking migrants to adapt to a dominant culture and to hold on to their traditions and language. This struggle is, of course, something that is perhaps understood all too well in Europe, which espouses principles of free movement of its peoples, but is facing its own immense challenges today as a result of economic and political upheaval around the world. Again, perhaps because I come from Australia, diversity also means something to me in terms of biodiversity. Australia has seen one of the largest declines of biodiversity recorded in the world. We know that protecting biodiversity is a smart strategy for the long-term benefit of humans. The variety of genetic material in other species gives us choices and options for dealing with challenges and opportunities. In addition, other species provide a range of physical, mental, health and cultural benefits. And because this leads me to think about my training as an archaeologist, diversity has particular meaning to me in terms of the stories, monuments and places of earlier peoples and the importance of preserving knowledge for future generations to understand and learn from the past. That is, what I'm trying to say is diversity encompasses various aspects of the human condition, the past, our places, our stories, the biosystems we live in, the experiences of all peoples, including the disabled, the poor, the vulnerable, minorities and refugees. Some of the most complex public administration and governance challenges facing the world today involve serious social, political and environmental issues in our world. And I'm talking, of course, about the people and places that are destroyed by war and ignorance, by pollution and bad land management, and by disease and poor nutrition. Despite our ethnic and national differences, many of us here today have not experienced the severity of these issues directly. How can we understand and empathise sufficiently to be effective in our future positions of power and influence? How can those of us in the comfort of democratic and stable governments make a difference in the future? No doubt we've all thought about this a great deal in recent times, hearing horror stories from those who risk their lives to find freedom, governments at an impasse to stem the tide of social misery, the rise in global temperatures, the destruction of cultural heritage. It's sometimes a bit easy to sink into despair or become punch drunk by all the bad news, to become comfortably numb, as they say. We as Hertians must think about how we can step up to the plate. We need to think about how we can use the assets we have developed here, how we can share the skills, experiences and knowledge we have learned at Hertie during our time and elsewhere to influence public policy and help make things better. Even small changes can have large effects. In his book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell describes how little things can make a big difference. He tells a story of how in the 1980s and 1990s in the neighbourhoods of Brownsville and East New York City, there was a time when the streets would become ghost towns at dusk. Ordinary people would vanish. There weren't families strolling in the streets. There weren't old people sitting on the benches watching the world go by. There weren't any kids on bikes. The drug trade was rampant. Gang warfare ruled the streets. In 1992, there were 2,154 murders in New York City and 626,182 serious crimes, mostly in Brownsville and East New York City. Then something happened. Within 5 years, murders had fallen by 64.3% and total crime had halved. The streets of Brownsville and East New York City had changed. There were kids on the street and there were old people sitting on the benches watching the world go by. The New York City Police said that the dramatic change was due to changes in the city's policing strategies. Criminologists said the population had aged and the crack trend had gone by. Economists said that the economy improved in the 1990s and it provided jobs to would-be criminals. But these things happened in many areas. So what sparked the dramatic fall in crime in New York City? One reason crime declined is that officials put into practice the controversial broken windows theory, which holds that if subways are clean of graffiti and windows are fixed, people begin to obey the law. Altering the context, even in a small way, altered the result. Small changes can lead to something big. It could be that a combination of factors, an incident, an idea, can provide the spark that makes change spread like a big virus. Gladwell calls this the tipping point, a term that he appropriated from medical science. He explains that this is the one dramatic moment in an epidemic when everything can change all at once. Ideas, products, and messages and behaviours can spread just as viruses do. I myself have noticed this effect with those instruments of self-indulgence, the selfie stanger, what are they called? Selfie sticks. One moment they were not there, and suddenly everyone has one. It's an idea that spread like a virus. But in all seriousness, what a powerful image Germany has portrayed to the world in recent days, welcoming refugees. Is this a tipping point? Will people react with, oh, phew, glad that's Germany's problem and not mine anymore? Or will this be a spark, an impetus around the world to do better? I think so, and I hope so. In essence, we, as graduates, have the tools, the knowledge and the networks to be custodians of good reform and good change. We are aware of the opportunities and challenges of the social environment and technology. We know how to engage in risk. We know how to be resilient in the face of setbacks, and we know how to take advantage of our network and our experiences to make small changes work big. In turn, we can inspire others through example and leadership to make sure good things happen and to be ready to help those in need. Being here together has changed many of us, from what I can see. We were perhaps never the kind of people that would throw up their hands and think it's all too hard, but we are more conscious about leading change and betterment. We have learnt about influence, negotiation, making the point. We can use what we know about how those in power make decisions, and we can be advocates for institutional change towards openness and accountability. And we can set an example by championing innovation and by thinking about strategic planning and performance. We are, of course, now part of the solution. We will continue to use our skills to teach others and to connect those of influence with new ways of thinking and problem solving. I ask you to stay up to date with new developments and on the horizon, and to keep an eye out for that one opportunity that is the spark that ignites change. At the same time, continue to stay in touch and grow your network. Prepare yourself to be able to respond to difficult problems by walking in the shoes of those who are not empowered, whether they be refugees, Indigenous peoples, our future generations, even the endangered landscapes and the flora and fauna around us. I know that I speak on behalf of others today, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. Many of them are profoundly grateful to have been part of the Hertie story, and we hope that our futures are bright and that we do you proud, and most importantly, that we stay in touch and use our strength as a cohort to make changes for a better world. Congratulations to the EMPA Hertie graduates of 2015. I appreciate your time. You've been most indulgent. Thank you for listening.